Russia invaded Ukraine, the whole world has been on edge about the probability of a third world war breaking out. I mean, Russia is a superpower on its own, and Ukraine has been made a superpower by proxy through the NATO alliance. This alliance is so threatening. I mean, its members such as the United States, the UK, and France are all nuclear states, and Russia also is a nuclear state. So, and Ukraine is also being funded and supported by non-NATO member states like Pakistan. All this together with the economic challenges all over the world has brought a sense of doom. It's like we're living in a world just before a major war, or like it's like something big is coming. To confirm my hypothesis, I use the main concept to analyze the current global political environment. The main concept is an acronym for the terms militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. It's a concept that has been used to analyze the First World War and the environment before the war broke out. Each of the acronyms are the four main signs that caused or led to the breakout of World War One. First up is the concept of militarism. This is a policy of building a stronger military. It ranges from the size and quality of your soldiers to the weapons in your artillery. And in the past few months, several war-prone nations began advancing their militaries. Let's have a look at some of these nations. First up is the US. Last month, the US Congress proposed a $842 billion budget for the Department of Defense. I mean, this is $200 billion short of a $1 trillion budget, not for its education or health sectors, but for its defense sector. Number two, the US and the Korean militaries announced that in April they will begin their biggest joint field exercises in 5 years, and the exercise began with the US flying its long-range B-1B bombers to the Korean peninsula in a show of force against North Korea. And let's go to Japan. According to Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution, Japan is prohibited from establishing a military or solving international conflicts through violence. However, in December 2022, the Japanese cabinet unveiled its 2023 budget for its Japanese self-defense forces, totaling around 6.8 trillion yen, which is about 52 billion US dollars. Compared to the US budget, it might seem little. However, the new budget is 26% higher than the Japanese Self-Defense Forces budget for 2022 and the largest year-on-year nominal increase in planned military spending since at least 1952. Let's go to North Korea. Well, we've always known that North Korea is a highly militarized nation. However, in the past months, North Korea has shown that it not only has nuclear bombs in its possessions, rather, it has a wide range of nuclear weapons in its artillery. And one such weapon is the nuclear submarine. I mean, I didn't even know such a weapon exists until North Korea said it had it. North Korea is also selling its weapons to Russia. So this is just a sign to show that its weapons are war grade. Then their weapons are not just for show. Let's go to China. Just late last month, China announced that it's planning to modernize its army. First up, it changed the mental and physical requirements of recruits. It does not want people who cannot stand the sight of blood. So if you plan to join the Chinese army, you must be comfortable with seeing blood. Yeah. Second, Chinese has proposed a 2049 military plan to make sure that China has the biggest and the dominant military in the world. It plans to outdo the US by 2049. You're probably wondering why Europe is not there, but I think that Europe is currently going through a living cost of living crisis, and they're not so focused on improving their military. So these are some of the nations that are highly militarizing their militaries and improving their equipments, further fueling the suspicion that a third war is imminent. The First World War saw nations aligning themselves based on their histories of cooperation and their needs and wants of the geopolitical space. Since Russia invaded Ukraine, several countries have begun forming alliances that might transition into a military alliance in case a war breaks out. One such alliance is the NATO. Well, this NATO alliance is not a new alliance. It was actually formed after the Second World War. It has 30 members, 4 or 5 of which are nuclear states. After Russia invaded Ukraine, countries such as Sweden and Finland, which were neutral, applied for NATO membership. And just last month, Finland's membership was approved as a form of protection from Russia. And even though it seems simple, this is a declaration that in case of a war, Finland will be on the other side while Russia is on the other side. On the other hand, non-member states like Russia and China are also seemingly forming their own alliances. Last month, Xi Jinping spent 3 days in Russia in what can be seen as him attempting to solidify the partnership between Russia and China. Again, China is forming alliances with the Middle East. Xi Jinping visited Saudi Arabia. Xi Jinping made Saudi Arabia and Iran the two biggest rivals in the Islamic world hold peace talks. And this is so big unless you don't know the history of Saudi Arabia and Iran. These two countries have peace talks will have such a big spillover effect that even Yemen will know peace after years of war with Saudi Arabia. The third alliance is the BRICS alliance. While this might appear as an economic alliance, when a war breaks out, the BRICS might move from an economic alliance to a military alliance. This is because these nations want to topple the U.S. supremacy. And also, a BRICS alliance will remove the European and American dominance in Africa. And we can see China and the US fighting for dominance in Africa. The third concept is the concept of imperialism. While in the past, this concept was linked to colonialism, today the term is commonly used in international propaganda to denounce or discredit an opponent's foreign policy. So, this we are seeing how the US is denouncing and discrediting China's foreign policy in Africa with talks of the debt trap, which is obviously non-existent. And there is a lot of propaganda from Western media trying to force people to accept that the Chinese are bad. We don't want them as a superpower. We don't want them. They don't follow human rights. There's a lot of propaganda right now. Also, second, African countries, it's like they're being bullied to choose sides despite the continent choosing to remain neutral in global conflicts. So you see Russian officials, US officials, Chinese officials all traveling to Africa just to find at least half of the continent to take their side. Another form of imperialism is the Taiwan and Chinese conflict. I mean, China sees Taiwan as part of its territory and wants it back. So it's denouncing and discrediting the sovereignty of Taiwan. However, the US is also using this to discredit China's policies. So it's like a tit for tat international propaganda that is currently going on, and it's forcing people or the masses to choose sides. And when you're being forced to choose sign, I think that this is a very clear sign of an impending doom or war. The fourth and final concept is the concept of nationalism. In the past few weeks, we've been seeing several developed and developing nations abandoning the dollar for other currencies, and as a result, there has been speculation that the American dollar is in the decline and will continue to decline. However, this decline, most people are only looking at it from the economic standpoint. However, there are also social consequences such as nationalism. The decline of the American dollar will spark and is continuing to spark nationalism. This is because they do not know how not to be the world power. Essentially, they thrive through white supremacy. The thought of China or Russia being above them economically or militarily will spark nationalism. Yeah, people will be ready to die for their white supremacy. They will be ready to go to war to make sure that the American and the European nations remain on top and they remain above the world order. However, before the nationalism, fascism will thrive. You have to remember, Hitler used fascism to foster nationalism. Yeah, if a war breaks out right now amid the Americans' decline, it will be a war just like Hitler's war to prove that America is still above other nations. Just like Hitler wanted to prove that Germany was above all other nations. So he used fascism and hate towards the Jews to bring all German people together. Yeah. So it's so easy for fascism to thrive in America because America is a fundamentally racist and fascist country. So we are already seeing talks of rising anti-Asian hate, racial hate. We are seeing the return of Jim Crow laws in some states. So before America goes to war, I think it will be inherently fascist. And this is not only in America, even the Chinese, they are so nationalistic. Even though they are not racist and they don't have fascist ideologies, they are so nationalistic and believe that if they go to war with the US, they will win. And so is Russia, so is Iran. And now most nations believe that America is not above the world order anymore. And this is fueling this tense climate because no one knows a world without America at the top. We don't know how the world would be like without America on the top of the world order. And this is further perpetuating a sense of doom, a sense of a war might break out. And I don't know. That is all I have to say, honestly. This is just my speculation. A war might not happen because honestly, wars are expensive. So I don't know. I really don't know what you think, but kindly let me know if you agree with my opinions and subscribe for the next video